And I think there's a lot of pros to AI, but it scares me because it's not going to be used with a human thinking. It's going to be the AI just making decisions. That's scary.
If you have any inflammation as part of the reason that your disease is propagated or is continuing, then stem cells are a good fit.
Ironically, it's a good thing that medicine doesn't jump around too much. Someone who has a great paper and says, oh, salt is good for everything. You know, everybody dives into salt and, oh, shoot, we have high blood pressure everywhere. And then someone else says, wait a minute, salt is bad. And this happens a lot in medicine.
Some drugs can be beneficial for some people in some settings, and other times they're not.
We know that now with social media in the mix, that identity formation in young people isn't happening internally. People don't know who they are anymore.
This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here's your host, Ryan Alford.
The only thing that's cared about is the money.
I know.
That's the sad thing. Is it truly patient care when the solutions are dictated by things that don't care
by
about what the issue
non-providers
is?
too, really.
Yeah.
A lot of it is by an algorithm, you know?
Yeah.
Because I would imagine, like, Doc, when you submit a claim for an acupuncture, I imagine they push back, like, we want medical necessity, we want chart notes. What other failed therapies have they tried? I mean, I see the same thing, like, for example, just to give the audience an example on the lab side that I dealt with, that's very frustrating. We did genetic testing. We swab your mouth and we could tell the doctor which medication's best, right? Pharmacogenetics. Mm-hmm. And after a while, the insurance companies, Blue Cross Blue Shield, for example, not to put them on blast.
Yeah, BCBS.
Yeah, they determined it was experimental that only after a patient had had 5 failed therapies with antidepressants could they then go to a pharmacogenetic test. So, and you, Doc, you know this, you dealt with someone with depression. 5 different medications, you're looking at probably 60 days for each medication, tapering on and off minimum. You're looking at a year of trying medications that may or not work. For someone with depression, that is such a long time where if the insurance got out of the way, doc can do the genetic tests. We, before they prescribe, can tell them, hey, this might be a better choice. That was my big kind of red flag moment in my healthcare time where, okay, this isn't about patient care. This is about saving money for them.
I actually have a personal story about that as well, but we to the point that we submit the notes all the time because they're always requesting notes. So it's just part of the practice now, which means more overhead of humans to go through that whole process and submit them.
More admin and less practicing healthcare.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they read the notes, and the note might literally say, I don't know, take something innocuous. You know, we spent 30 minutes doing the procedure, timestamps and everything else. And it'll say time is not mentioned on it. We're denying the claim. They deny it because it stalls it, and they're hoping it's lost in the paperwork. Yeah. It's insane. And that's United, by the way, just to, throw another insurance company in the mix. But personally, I had a gas capture test for SIBO a while ago. I was bloating like I was pregnant. I had no clue what was going on. Didn't think it was SIBO. Needed Xifaxan prescription. Works perfect for it. There's a lot of stuff you have to do after that. But, I knew how to do that. But I needed a prescription. It happens to be $75 a pill on average. And I need 14 days of it. So, my doctor put it in, regular medical doctor. We had the test. We knew exactly what was going on. They classified SIBO as IBS and wanted me to go on an SSRI. So I called the nurse that administers it at the insurance company to discuss my case because I was like, clearly you don't think I need an SSRI for a bacterial issue. And she said, well, you need to go on it for 30 days. And I'm like, that's insane, especially with the side effects of SSRIs. I don't have any mental issues. I'm bloating and I have bacterial infection. Yeah. I need an antibiotic. So I actually spent the money myself. It was like $900 to get the medication. And I was like better in 3 days. It was wild. This is the insurance industry. Yeah. This is like, because they have these charts. And I sit on an AI task force. Well, recently I just left it where we're looking at ethics and AI in medicine. And you're going to see that play out even more, telling you exactly what the right care is and, based on bell curves, what you should try first. And I think there's a lot of pros to AI, but it scares me. because it's not going to be used with a human thinking. It's going to be the AI just making decisions. An AI informing a human, that's going to increase medical outcomes. It's going to increase care and comprehensiveness. The AI making the decisions, that's scary.
Talk to me about, I do hear that a lot where people, I think this taboo nature with it.
Yeah, I want to ask on that.
But I think you nailed that. But then it's like, but I also think that there's this fundamental mystery about, I understand, and you might tell me there's 1,200 things that stem cells can do and help with. But what are the 2 or 3 practical things that our listeners, now that we know it's not taboo, that's the misconception, it's not illegal, what are the 2 or 3 best use cases of stem cells?
Oh my God, there's so many. If you go to my lecture on YouTube, I presented, because I teach doctors, right? There's a 2-day course that I teach, but one of the lectures I put on online was what I gave at Cell Surgical Network, and it's about the diverse clinical applications of stem cell therapy. So I ran through, I was sprinting to try to give people the information on all these organ systems and disease categories, because there's good evidence for all these conditions. So it's hard to narrow down, right? We have people coming to our clinic, looking for solutions for chronic illnesses, coming from, the brain issues, right? Brain, very difficult to fix, and a lot of problems, traumatic brain injury, Parkinson's, MS, and post-stroke, or ALS, and all these conditions. And then coming down the organs, heart, lungs, liver, and kidneys, and reproductive systems. We've helped people with all these different areas. So it's really hard to narrow down. But when people come to me and they ask me, Doc, I have this condition, can stem cells help? So I go for clinical research first. I let them know what has been found. If there's no evidence, then we go look at how the cells work. So basically, the concepts are very simple. If you have any inflammation as part of the reason that your disease is propagated or is continuing, then stem cells are a good fit. If you have immune dysregulation, that your immune system is overactive, you can't calm down your system and you're attacking itself, then stem cells is really powerful. We're kind of more focusing on the mesenchymal stem cells, which is the most prevalent one therapy right now. There are various kinds, but that's the immune regulation and balancing is a huge part. And then if you injured yourself, there was any tissue injury, even with chronic conditions, there could be tissue damage in different organs, then the stem cells will go in, the mesenchymal stem cells will go in to signal your body's own system, not only calm down the inflammation, take away debris and take away cells that don't belong, but also tell your local stem cells, because every organ you have, every tissue you have, there are these primitive cells ready to divide, to become a new tissue, to form new tissue. So in the sense, we don't necessarily have to count on a stem cell's ability to form new tissue. All the stem cells has to do is to tell your local tissue, it's your time to shine. It's your time to come alive and make new cells to replace the damaged ones. So if you have anything that's related to inflammation, immune dysregulation, or tissue damage, then you're in a good place when it comes to stem cells. So that would be
the biggest I've heard about it. Probably like guys on Joe Rogan, right? These UFC fighters that even I think Mel Gibson was talking about going down to Mexico. So from what you're saying, all these athletes that, I went to Mexico because I had ACL tear or whatever. You're telling me I can get the same treatment in the US? Same exact.
Can. Okay. Yes. You probably.
So what do you think the difference is? Just cost, obviously.
Just as good results, if not better. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, are we injecting it or are we taking it orally?
Oh, you can't. We don't have oral delivery yet. And, your stomach acid is definitely going to digest it. No, you need to put in the body. The beauty of the cells is that they have the sensing system. They have the ability to get to wherever you need them because they can track signals. So as long as you put in the body, anywhere you put in the body, there's a great chance that they're going to get to where you need. Some may stay more locally. If you want more local delivery, let's say you injured your knee, probably it's a good idea to inject some right into the knee, because especially within the knee capsule, the exchange between the capsule, the synovial fluid and the blood is very, very slow. It probably is going to take a couple months for the two to equilibrate. So you want to put some locally, but injection is the key, because the cells are very big. Let's say people doing facial, they think they can just put the cells, on the surface. Maybe if they do microneedling, creating some holes, and they think the cells, hopefully they will get into the holes. It's yes, small percentage will, but it's a bit of a waste. You want to inject under your skin so the cells are inside your body, and then they can travel wherever you need them. If you have a lot of inflammation. Yeah, if you have a lot of inflammation or some kind of, if you did microneedling, you're creating the tissue, this micro trauma, then the cells are going to stay there. They're going to try to help you fix the trauma.
Why the hell is it so foreign and all this knowledge is there? We talked pre-episode, the history of cannabis, and as a father of four, I toil even myself a little bit with the stigma of growing up believing and being told that this is a drug, a Scheduled 1, the DEA, I have those own thing, and I've got 4 children, and my wife's a principal at a middle school, and I'm like, but I talk about these, but it's like, so I know it, but why is it so stigmatized and so hidden and not more in the forefront?
Well, ironically, it's a good thing that medicine doesn't jump around too much. Someone who has a great paper and says, oh, salt is good for everything. Everybody dives into salt and, oh, shoot, we have high blood pressure everywhere. And then someone else says, wait a minute, salt is bad. And this happens a lot in medicine. Medicine and science are not exact. It's not mathematics. We don't find exact equations. We find a theory that we can prove or at least falsify. And medicine swings like a pendulum. So anybody jumps on one side of the pendulum too quickly, you might be disproven very quickly. So the history of medicine was humming along. And actually, cannabis has always been part of medicine. It's only the last 100 years that we haven't known it as an intimate and effective medicine. But like what we were talking about before, politics can affect what people learn, what people teach. And cannabis used to be part of the pharmacopoeia. It was taken out. The American Medical Association used to be in huge favor. Actually, there were strikes for doctors to stop working because there was talk of making this, an illegal situation. Of course, that has swung full circle. The AMA is now, really not favor of cannabis at all. So the tides of history change and people learn different things. I grew up, thinking cannabis was evil. It wasn't taught in medical school. We have to do learning ourselves, especially in this day and age of the internet and alternative facts. People have to judge for themselves and really touch and feel what is their truth. And it's sad to me that information to support cannabis isn't out there. And that's what this doctor-approved cannabis handbook is all about. I want people to have access to truth. Every single claim in this book I wrote has a peer-reviewed reference in the back. This is not trust the doctor, check my facts. I'm right there. I put it all on the table. I want people to judge for themselves.
What are the, not necessarily for yourself, being so connected and having so much knowledge on it, what are the eye-opener findings within your book, within the treatments? Because I think people, and you know where I'm going, Doc, but I do think that there's the people that just still think people just get high, that everything is masked, that it's a benefit, it does all that, but really you just wanted to get stoned. So that's what people think. And then there's people, okay, maybe it can treat pain, the CBD cream. And then everything else is cloaked in mystery. So what are the biggest things that surprise people in having knowledge?
Well, stop the record, because the endocannabinoid system is the number one most prolific communication system in the body. We've heard of dopamine, we've heard of serotonin and noradrenaline, epinephrine. We've never heard of anandamide. We've never heard of endocannabinoid system. I mean, this is a system of interconnected receptors and molecules, binding molecules that hits every single cell in our body. Just let that sink in. It's not one system. It's not one organ. It's every single system in the body. And it wasn't discovered until the 90s. So think about all those old doctors out there who went to school in the 70s through 80s, not a clue. And even when it was discovered, that doesn't mean it's on front page. It means it's in scientific journals. It's growing in popularity. It's only now becoming available to younger doctors and doctors who have the time and the interest to look and learn. Our predecessors didn't pass that knowledge on to us. So doctors who are by all means an apprenticeship, we learned from previous doctors and how they worked effectively in hospitals and clinics. And cannabis was not part of that equation.
Okay. If all drugs are decriminalized and you have the non-drug users, the choice, like we can all admit that drugs put you in a different state of mind than sober people. And it is, whether it should happen in a unsafe place, I don't think anyone thinks that should be going on. We don't want that. But versus, public versus non-public, drug use, because again, it's kind of like, it's no fun. And look, I drink beer. I go to parties. It stinks going. Like I've had surgery sometimes the next day and not drink. It's not a lot of fun hanging out with people that are drinking and not be drinking. It got in the same context, and that's just me. I know. Look, Chris is I don't know how long sober. It doesn't drink anymore, so he does it now, and he's fine. But this is just me personally, not. And so again, I'm building to a point here. It's just taking me forever to get there. How do we make people comfortable with that fact, and how do you separate it? I get the non-criminalization, but if everybody's just walking around smoking crack and it's okay versus people that aren't, how do you come to terms with that in sort of these policies?
Well, I want to start by talking about something. It's an experiment. It's called the Rat Park experiment, right? I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this, but this is just a fascinating experiment done with mice, which is Gina's background, so she might know a little bit more about this as well. But it's basically that some researchers addicted mice physically to drugs, and they put them in an environment where there was just nothing else, bright lights, just not a lot of any other stimulation. And they would find that they would just keep pushing this little bar to administer themselves more drugs nonstop all the time, right? And so there's this physical addiction, and to the extent that they would even sometimes choose to push this bar over getting food or something like that. That's pretty bad. But then they take these same mice and they put them in what was called Rat Park. Now, Rat Park had a big social network of other mice. It had a lot of different things that were mentally stimulating, socially stimulating that these mice could participate in. And they took these mice that had severe physical addiction to various types of drugs and that had shown that they would pick those drugs over self-sustaining behaviors like eating, and they put them in Rat Park. And what they found is that over time, with that kind of social support, with all those other things around them, they started to engage in that and choose other things over hitting that bar. They were no longer just sitting there and hitting that bar. And I think that tells us something, right? And this is about, we talk about in the drug policy community, the psychedelic community, a lot of times about set and setting. And we talk about set and setting in terms of there being times when it is better to use certain drugs and times when it is not appropriate to use those same drugs. And I think that this is a big part of it. But we also, if we expand that, it's also about the community itself, right? Do people feel supported? Do they feel like there are options for them in life? Are there other ways for them to find fulfillment? And that has a huge impact on whether or not someone will be doing drugs, right? You can buy alcohol at any time of day. And some people are alcoholics and they do have problems with their lives because, well, depends on where you live. You can buy alcohol at any time of day, but it's relatively accessible as a drug. And some people are alcoholics. They have problematic behaviors with alcohol, and it can impact their ability to keep relationships and keep jobs and things like that. But the vast majority of alcohol drinkers are not going to be chugging beers at 9 a.m. on a Monday right before they have a big meeting with their boss, right? They just wouldn't view it as the appropriate setting. And so I think that there will always be people who struggle with chaotic drug use, people who struggle with physical addictions. But in a lot of cases, that comes because there is another vacuum in their life, right? They're not feeling, for some reason, they don't feel supported. They don't feel like they have other options. They're not really right with themselves. So I think addressing that is part of it. But I think also looking at whether or not the criminal model, which is what we have right now in some sort of idea for preventing that from happening. One, is it effective? Well, it's not, because a lot of drugs are very illegal and we clearly still see people doing them, right? But two, is that the model to help people who find themselves in those relationships with substances? And I think it's been pretty clear that it's not. And so again, it's neither condemning nor condoning drug use. It's not saying that, go do all the drugs you want all the time. That's just, honestly, I will tell you right now, a very bad decision. It's that some drugs can be beneficial for some people in some settings, and other times they're not. And do you have the knowledge? Do you have the support and the ability to make those decisions for yourself? Do you have access to the important research to be able to make those decisions? But also, are you in a situation where, when you find that you're not making the right choices around that, are you able to access better support? Are you able to find ways out of it? And that's something that can't happen in a prohibitionist setting.
Talk to me about like how you see the brain move, and like what happens when we go from one state to the other, and some of the specific techniques that you're doing and working with people, Doctor.
Yeah, sure. So basically, the way that I describe it is we want our brains to be able to move, just like you're talking about, in terms of what electrical frequency your brain's using. I call them gears in the brain. I use a lot of car analogies just to make it easy. We want our brains to act like automatic transmissions. If you drive an automatic transmission, you don't have to think about the gears. So the idea is, if a brain is regulated, it shows up as green on the QEEG brain map that I perform, which I don't see really ever because of the nature of, honestly, I think with screens, that optimal will end up changing. There won't be green brain maps anymore, just because optimal people won't really exist. It'll be the 1%. But I can see if a person's brain is close to using the automatic transmission, or if it's more like a manual transmission jammed in a gear. And I've identified two really strong patterns that come along with porn addiction and with PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction. The one I call strained brain, the other one I call drained brain, just to make it easy. So strained brain's a brain that is wired and tired simultaneously. And, back to the automatic transmission car analogy, it's like you're driving around town, but you have your pedal to the metal on the acceleration or the gas, and your foot's on the brakes also. Obviously trashes your transmission, right? And then the other is drain brain that leads to ED. Drain brain is your brain stuck in neutral. Brutal. That is what leads to arousal dysfunction. It can't go.
It makes me think about like this broader lens of reality with AI and everything, like of what's real and what's not. And what are we paying for? What's transactive or, versus natural life? Because I'm going to go down a road here. just follow me, Doc. And then
I'm probably already with you. So go for it, because my mind's already there.
It's what's real, what's not, like dividing the line. And then I'm going to take it a step further. A lot of people get married for the wrong reasons. And is that real? A woman marries a man because he's got money. A man marries a woman because she's young and attractive, but there's not a real connection. Where is the line of real and not real? And what should we pay for and what should be real?
Here's my thoughts on it. It goes back to something I already started to say is we know this from a lot of scientific studies. I love the science on this, but I do like to take the science and make sure people understand the practical usage of it. we know that now with social media in the mix, that identity formation in young people isn't happening internally. People don't know who they are anymore.
Yeah.
Social media is very much at the root of identity dysfunction. So what's real really matters on who you are. And it goes back to your premise of mind, body, and energy. You need to know. And in my book, in Mind Over Explicit Matter, I talk all about this. You need to figure out who you are. And then you validate that internally. And then you move through the world in a way that allows you to be on purpose, where you can feel that intrinsic value, not a like, not a heart, not because someone's going to give you money, not, it's then what that forms is what's known as interdependent relationships, not codependent relationships. Codependent is your classic Jerry Maguire, you complete me. If you don't need to be completed, you can enter into a relationship with someone, and now you have two whole people who get to move through the world together and have a super fun time doing it. And I will tell you, admittedly, because it's in the book and I told you I'm an open book, I totally had a codependent relationship with my husband. We've been married 23 years. We have 5 kids. And that's what I was taught by my parents. So I met my husband. I'm like, this is amazing. He completes me. Let me put it this way. This man does not complete me anymore in a really good way. We've learned to look at all the holes within our own psyches and fill them ourselves. And then we had to create the opportunity to allow the other person to, because, you learn to be a fixer to a certain extent. And so that's the solution. But, now discerning reality from AI or unreality can be very difficult, but the more grounded you are internally, it's so easy to spot. And my clients will say this too.
Hey guys, you know where to find us, vibescience.com. We're spreading the good word. We're here to empower you, taking you to your highest vibe. We'll see you next time.
The content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe.